Good morning, everyone. This is Jeffe Kennedy, also writing as Jennifer K. Lambert, author of epic fantasy romance. I'm here with my first cup of coffee. Ah, Nirvana. Today is Tuesday, September 23rd, 2025. Hope you all are working your way into the week. And I don't know what should I wish for you. Apparently, today is one of the many, many potential dates for which the rapture can occur, during which time the good Christians or certain kinds of practicing Christians will be taken up into heaven to join with God. There is some debate as to whether they leave bodies behind or simply piles of clothing, which is surprising to me because I know you can't take it with you, but I always thought you weren't supposed to be able to take your bodies with you either. Isn't that a spiritual thing? So, anyway, if you wanted to be raptured, I hope it happened for you. If, like most of us out here who are like actually grateful to be living in this world, I hope that you find reasons for joy today. I don't know. I think that's a thing, like there's this whole vein of it's not just Christianity. It turns up in Islam, and I've seen it turn up in a few obviously cults, various sects, and so forth. Uh, that there's this desire to leave this mortal plane, right? To go and join with the creator or achieve nirvana. I think nirvana, and I actually don't know much about it, is a state of bliss in this world, right? I've never been able, even, and some of you will know that I did comparative religious studies, was one of my majors in college. And so I've always been very interested in this idea of transcending spiritually, like why are we here? Why do we live our lives? What are we working towards? Who are we trying to become? What does it mean, like trying to become your best self? What is that best self? Does that mean finding nirvana? Does it mean finding a state of saintliness, um, a state of happiness? But it always kind of mystified me that there was this element of that I was supposed to long for this moment of like joining with the creator, which um, because I never liked it because it means losing yourself, right? It's like what I'm supposed to go like dissolve myself into some greater entity, and this is going to be absolutely blissful and wonderful. Um, yeah, I don't buy that. I also never really liked the idea, even when I was little and growing up with my Catholic family, that there was kind of this idea that you would be like, I don't know, in like the kids' books about Christianity, like on a cloud playing a harp. I was like, how is that interesting? How is that fun? And one of the things I've come around to is that, I feel like we are so blessed to have these wonderful, if mortal bodies, right? If we weren't so blessed, if we didn't love having them so much, we wouldn't be interested in immortality, right? We wouldn't be interested in making them live forever, which is a persistent idea. We all want to persist, right? And I'm the same way, right? With my not liking the idea of somehow losing my identity as I dissolve into some sort of greater flow of the universe. I don't want to do that. I want to be me, but I also really, really want to enjoy being alive. And it's surprising to me, maybe not surprising, that's probably not the right word. It's distressing to me how many people focus on not wanting to be here, not wanting to, like these, uh, you know, and forgive me because I think I know some people who are very good practitioners of religion, but I'm feeling very soured on a lot of the evangelical stuff going on in the US right now with the control and so forth. The attempts to run other people's lives, right? It's like, why is your religion about running someone else's life? Why not uh, find the thing that works for you? But then this is why I'm a Taoist, right? Taoism is about finding your own path, doing your own thing. But like when people talk about, God's creation, God gave us this world and dominion over it, and that sort of thing is one interpretation, right? It's like, well, why are you so anxious to kick it to the curb? Yeah, I mean, we have sunshine and we have flowers and we have our animal companions and we have these blue skies and birds that fly around and sing to us, and it's glorious. We have lattes. We do things like we make these beautiful glass cups and we can drink delicious beverages from them. So anyway, uh, I went on a little long about that, sorry, but ain't it great to be alive? Yeah, there's some awful people out there, but don't let the awful people ruin uh, your good time, right? This is what we get. Maybe we don't get more than this. So yeah, savor it, enjoy it. Shout out to my friends on the Pacific coast of China and Philippines. I have a very good friend from college, a lover from college who lives in Hong Kong now. Shout out, Jaron. I don't think he watches the podcast, but he's in his 60-story glass skyscraper as super typhoon Ragasa bears down. Ragasa is an 8 on the 1 to 10 scale. So it's like, yeah, they just got to do everything bigger and better, more granular. I figure an 8 is a 4, right? Category 4 for us. But yeah, anyway, he says it should be fine. It's just disconcerting when the skyscraper sways and the typhoon winds, which I'm kind of like, can't you go to a basement? But he says it should be fine. It's designed to do that. So crossing fingers, good luck. Enjoy the fury. I hope to get some photographs of it. He said he would peek through the blinds. And I said, well, I said, I assume you can't board up the windows, right? And he says, no, it doesn't work that way, which it was a fair assumption on my part. Somehow I imagined like the window washer, uh, what do they call them? Like the platforms on the cables, like going up and boarding up 60 stories of glass. I guess, yeah, you don't do that. But he says you put the blinds down to keep, in case a window breaks, it prevents the glass. It makes the glass just go down instead of blowing all the way into the condo. So it's like, okay, well, that's fair. And he said, but he would peek out and take photos. So I would want to, I would want to just keep those. If I'm going to be in my glass box in the sky during a super typhoon, I kind of want to keep the blinds up and just like fully experience this thing. That's the theme for today, isn't it? All right, in actual writing news, since this is theoretically a podcast about writing and publishing, although longtime listeners know that we do go off brand. Well, one thing before I launch into that is thank you for those of you who have commented on the amazing editing job that Sydney is doing. Props to Sydney. I'm glad you're enjoying the new format. It's all professional and stuff. She's doing a great job. If you pre-ordered Magic Reborn, then you will already know that I did successfully delay the pre-order. I'm sorry. Gosh, when I set that date, I was like, tra-la, tra-lay, there's no way I'm going to miss this release date. And turns out, as Wayne and Garth would say, way. So I moved it to November 30th. It turns out, if you were listening before when I talked about this and I was saying that my calendar was grayed out, I was indeed in the Amazon doghouse. I emailed finally and asked and groveled and said, I know I'm a bad person, but could I please be forgiven? And so they forgave me. And so I was able to delay it 30 days. which I really am going to make no promises, but I should totally be able to make it. And I got 2,500 words on the book yesterday. I'm having a lot of fun with it. I feel like this is not spoilery. This will make you all happy. Those of you who have been waiting for this book and waiting for the completion of this 9-book series, I am going to have 6 POVs in this book. So I'm bringing back Nick and Gabriel's POVs and also Jadrin and Salai. So I just did a chapter in Jadrin's POV, which was immensely, I wanted to say amazing, both amazing and immensely entertaining. Jadrin is just one of my favorite characters. He's so freaking snarky and pretends to be an idiot, and he's so wily. So anyway, I had a lot of fun writing that chapter, and I'm over 10,000 words on the book. So, Halloween was going to be a major stretch, but November 30th, cross our fingers, should be okay. The other thing I've done is I have been talking to cover artists about a cover for the book that was called Bandits, that was called Amethyst Run, that went out on submission as Sex, Lies, and Ley Lines. I think I am going to, if we end up pulling it from submission by the end of October, which is the plan, unless we get an offer. I mean, it would be great to get an offer. But if we don't get one, then I have plans to self-publish it, and probably as Lust, Lies, and Ley Lines. So the quadruple L. If you are a writer or self-publisher, with both, if you understand metadata things, let me know if you think the word lust will get me dungeoned or shadow banned and so forth. I remember that there was a joke a long time ago when I was a contractor working for the EPA. There was a program for leaking underground storage tanks, which was, of course, Lust. Leaking underground storage tanks, which referred to the storage tanks in gasoline stations where they would store gas beneath the gas stations. And a lot of them had been there for, coming on 100 years now, and they had rusted, and they'd never been great quality to begin with, and they hadn't been maintained. And a lot of times these gas stations had been abandoned. They went out of business. So you think about going down one of those 2-lane highways and you see the abandoned gas station that is basically a couple of concrete pillars and maybe a concrete pad and a falling down shack that used to have snacks and a cashier. And who knows how long it's been out of business. But one thing that persists, the word of the day, is that often those tanks are still underneath, the underground storage tanks, and they would be leaking. And so there was this whole program to, you have a problem with environmental cleanup with those kinds of things because there's no one to take ownership. It's like, who has to pay to do this? The owners are dead or long gone. Who's responsible, right? It doesn't come cheap. So there was this whole EPA program to deal with these leaking underground storage tanks because we don't really want gasoline leaking into our soil and groundwater. But in Georgia, bastion of Christian primness, I do have my themes today, don't I? One of their legislators objected to the acronym LUST. And so they changed it to, I think it was like GUST. It was like underground, or maybe it was PUST. I don't know what it was. But at any rate, it was not lust. And so the joke became that there is no lust in Georgia. A long story for a quasi-good punchline. I had dinner with a friend last night at Itsunami, up at 10,000 Waves, which was wonderful. We got to sit by the window and it was raining and the hills looked misty. 10,000 Waves, I mentioned frequently, was, it's Japanese themed. So it's a Japanese themed restaurant, and it's up on the road to the ski area. So it's beautiful views. And it was a really nice dinner. We had a great time. But one of the topics of conversation that came up is how people don't really tell jokes anymore, right? We don't tell jokes in the way that we did pre-internet. Now it's all these memes and videos and that sort of thing. Whereas it used to be back in the old days, before internet, people, usually had their repertoire of one or two jokes. And so we ended up exchanging like what our party joke back in the day used to be. And I had one that like I could tell it. I think I told it this time in, I don't know, 3 to 5 minutes, but I could stretch this into like a half an hour joke. It was a lot of fun, but kind of making me think about that on one of my favorite ones, which I can tell on here. Sydney worries about me staying within the guidelines because YouTube does have these things saying, have you used bad language? And it's like, but if you read it, it's like it has to be really foul and in the first couple of minutes. But this one, all of the bad language is implied, and so it's what is the difference between a circus act and a chorus line? And the answer is one of them is a cunning array of stunts. You have to be very careful to tell that one when you are not drinking because it's really easy to get it backwards. Other things that are going on. I finished beta reading for Minerva Spencer. You all are going to love this book. I am now reading, interestingly, I'm reading Octavia Butler's Parable of the Talents, which is the sequel to Parable of the Sower, the lesser known of the two. And I'm reading it for my science fiction fantasy book group. And I would not have read this book on my own, which is the entire reason I am in this book group, is because I read books I wouldn't read on my own. And so I have been reading this, and it's so dark. And what's amazing is there's like this rising Christian nationalist movement in the book where their slogan is "Make America Great Again." But she wrote this book in the mid-90s. So it's like, I don't know, she had the window to the future. She was really clairvoyant that way. But the thing is Octavia Butler is such an incredibly good writer that I am enthralled. I cannot stop thinking about this story. I want to pick it up again as soon as I put it down, even though it's grim and I'm not enjoying a lot of the things about the story. I'm also obsessed with the story. So it's fascinating to read that way, and I don't know how she does it. I mean, that's really amazing when I'm reading something like this, and it's like, what is it? What is she doing? One thing that I think she does, and I want to say I don't like it, but obviously it works, is she does this foreshadowing of dread where you know that bad things are going to happen. And so like my writer brain, my analytical brain keeps thinking, oh, she shouldn't be signaling, that this is going to happen, because then when it happens, I'm like, oh my God, she told me on like page 1 that this thing was going to happen. And why'd she do that? But it works. It works really well. And I'm fascinated. And now I kind of want to try it. I don't think I have it here. I've also been reading T. Kingfisher's Hemlock and Silver, which I'm enjoying. And I usually have both my Kindle and that book next to me. So like when Octavia starts to crush me too much, I can pick up Hemlock and Silver. But dang, Octavia Butler is such a compelling writer. I might have to just go read all of her books again. I think I definitely read Parable of the Sower, although longtime listeners will recall when I read that for our book group, and realized that I'd only ever read the first chapter and then gave up because it was making me sad. Yeah, so I hope you all have a great week. I hope you find something to go out and celebrate about being alive. If you did not get raptured, in which case, more power to you. Good luck. I enjoy heaven. Yeah. But yeah, if you're still on earth with the rest of us, I hope you find something joyful in just being alive and enjoying this amazing world that we live in and the amazing sensations of having a human body. It's a precious thing. All right. Um, you all take care, and I will talk to you all on Friday. Bye bye.